what are the biggest problems of the job of truck driver currently?
Yeah, the problems with the job and the labor market, right? But let's start with the job, which is, again, just so much time that's not compensated directly for the amount of time, and that's just psychologically. And this was a big part of what I studied for the first book was, that conception of like, what's my time worth, right? And like, what truck drivers love is oftentimes is that tangible outcome-based compensation. So they say, you know what, it's honest day's work. I work hard. I get paid for what I do. I drive 500 miles today. That's what I'm going to get paid for. And then you get to that dock and they tell you, sorry, the load's not ready. Go sit over there. And you stew.
And that weight can break you psychologically because your time every second becomes more worthless.
Yeah.
Or worth less.
Yeah. And again, the industry is going to say, for instance, okay, well, they've got skin in the game, right? That argument about sort of compensation based on sort of output, right? But that's a holdover from when you couldn't observe truckers. Now they all have, satellite linked computers in the trucks that tell these large companies, this driver was, at this GPS location for 4.5 hours, right? So if you wanted to compensate them for that time directly, and the trucker can't control what's happening on that customer location, they're waiting for that, that customer to tell them, hey, pull in there. And so what it becomes is just a way to shift the inefficiencies and the cost of that onto that driver. Now it's competitive for customers. So, if you're Walmart, you might have your choice of a dozen different trucking companies that could move your stuff. And if one of them tells you, hey, you're not moving our trucks in and out of your docks fast enough, we're going to charge you for how long our truck is sitting on your lot. If you're Walmart, you're going to say, I'll go see what the other guy says, right? And so companies are going to allow that customer to essentially waste that driver's time, in order to keep that business.
Can you try to describe the economics, the labor market of the situation? You mentioned freight and railroad. What is the sort of the dynamic financials, the economics of this that allow for such low salaries to be paid to truckers? Like what's the competition? What's the alternative to transporting goods via trucks? Like what seems to be broken here from an economics perspective?
Yeah, so it's nothing. It's a perfect market.
Okay.
Right. I mean, so for economists, this is how it should work, right?
But the inefficiencies, like you said, sorry to interrupt, are pushed to the truck driver. Doesn't that like spiral? Doesn't that lead to a poor performance on the part of the truck driver and just like make the whole thing more and more inefficient, and it results in lower payment to the truck driver and so on? It just feels like in capitalism, you should have a competing solution in terms of truck drivers, like another company that provides transportation via trucks that creates a much better experience for truck drivers, making them more efficient, all those kinds of things. Or how is the competition being suppressed here?
Yeah. So the competition is based on who's cheaper. And this is the cheapest way to move the freight. Now, there are externalities, right? I mean, this is the explanation that I think is obvious for this, right? There are lots of costs that, whether it's that driver's time, whether it's the time without their family, whether it's the fact that they drive through congestion and spew lots of diesel particulates into cities where kids have asthma and make our commutes longer, rather than more efficiently use their time by sort of routing them around congestion and rush hour and things like that. This is the cheapest way to move freight, and so it's the most competitive. A big part of this is public subsidy of training. So when those workers are not paying for the training, you and I often are. So if you lose your job because of foreign trade, or you're a veteran using your GI benefits, you may very well be offered training, publicly subsidized training to become a truck driver. And so all of these are externalities that the companies don't have to pay for, and so this makes it the most profitable way to move freight.
So trucks is way cheaper than trains.
Well,
Really?
so one of the big stories for these companies is that the average length of haul, which becomes very important for self-driving trucks, the average length of haul has been steadily declining. Over the last 15 years or so, and this is industry collected data from sort of the big firms that report it, but roughly been cut in half from typically about 1,000 miles to under 500. And under 500 is what a driver can move in a day, right? So you can get loaded, drive, and unload, in around 400 miles or something like that.